Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. Okay, let's start. I'm sure he's already introduced you. So he called you founders. So I'm assuming that all of you here are interested in building some type of business. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Now, I'm sure you've heard that over 90% of startups fail. You haven't heard this?
No, we did.
So at least 90% of startups fail. And if you know that, and you're here, that means you have the audacity to try, even with knowing that. And I applaud you for that, because I can tell you right now, it's not easy. It's not easy building a successful startup. So the question becomes, well, what does it take to do that? If 90% of startups fail, why do you guys think they fail? Anyone?
Co-founder.
Sorry, co-founders?
The incorrect co-founder.
Incorrect co-founders, okay. Cost? No funding?
No, I can tell you a reason of how can they succeed, because all of the odds are there to make them fail. It's really everything there to make them fail. They only succeed if they keep trying and keep
They
trying.
keep trying, okay, persistence?
Yeah. Not knowing the product. Not knowing the product.
Not knowing the product.
The problem.
Poor product market fit. Okay,
For people.
anyone else?
The problem, not understanding the problem and the customer and the target customer.
Okay, that's also poor product market fit, right? You're building something that no one wants.
There's a big market.
Competitors.
Okay, lack of funding.
Competitors.
Sorry?
Competitors. Who you are we compete with?
Competitor.
Oh, competitors. Okay, you're in a very competitive market.
Not sticking to a plan.
Sorry?
Not sticking to a plan.
Not sticking to a plan or not having a plan.
Not having or not sticking.
Lack of focus. Okay. Okay. All of these things you mentioned can ultimately contribute to a startup not succeeding. But before a startup even begins, there are two things they have to validate or prove. The first is demand. What is demand? Demand is simply proving that you have a sizable enough market that is interested in buying whatever it is you're selling. Doesn't matter if it's a product or a service. So the first thing you need to do is you need to validate demand. It's very simple. If you cannot validate demand, nothing else matters. The funding, the focus, determination, you can have all the determination in the world. If you don't have people that are interested in buying what you're selling, you won't have a business. It doesn't matter how many times you try. You can be as determined as as you want to be. And believe me, I have encountered people that have worked on business ideas for 5 years, 10 years. They keep working, believing that if they try hard enough, they will eventually succeed. But guess what? If you don't validate demand, if for whatever reason, and it doesn't matter the reason, people aren't interested in paying for your product, that's the bottom line. You don't have a business, right? But let's assume for a moment that you have validated that. You went out, to a mall, whatever, you ask people, hey, do you want to buy a product? And people said, oh, I really love it. Here's my money, here's my credit card. I'm gonna buy it right now, right? You have 100 people that bought your product or service, they prepaid for it. You validate demand. But is that enough? Is that enough to say, I have a successful business, I have a successful business today? No, it's not enough, and I'll tell you why. It's easy, it's actually relatively easy to sell 100 people anything. You can practically, I'll give you an example. One of the most craziest, maybe you've heard of it, business ideas that actually succeeded quite well. Pet rocks,
Yeah.
right? There was a guy that literally started selling rocks to people. I mean, like literally, like, you know, like a rock. He just went to the beach, picked up these nice curved rocks.
Rocket a pet.
Yeah, and sold it to people as pets. And people were buying this, right? So you can find a demand for literally almost anything. But here's the key part. The next part is that you now have to figure out how are you going to find those people and how are you going to convince them to buy it. That's distribution. So you can have a target market that you know exists and that the demand is there, but still not be able to actually reach it. And I'll give you a real world example. There's a startup here in Miami that I've worked with. It's in the M&A space, mergers and acquisition, big bang. You may not know much about M&A, but M&A is a very complex process. And what this startup has done, they have built and or they have integrated AI into an automation tool for part of this process. The people that have built this work for a big bang. They came from a big bang. They know exactly what this process is about. They know how much of a pain this process is. They know that people want it. They built it. And they got testers and everyone told them it was great, they did such a wonderful job, right? But guess what? When they tried to sell it, they realized it was extremely difficult to reach investment bankers. You know, these are like people that are very busy. You just can't call them up on the phone and get hold of them, right? There's what you call a whole cadre of gatekeepers between you and them, right? So here's a company, they have a great product, the demand has been validated, but they can't reach their target market. They have a distribution problem, right? So you have to solve you have to establish not only that people want your product and want to pay for your product, but that you have a plan, you have a way of reaching them. Now, it may sound like simple, it's not. What I will tell you is that a lot of people think the technology is the difficult part, building the product, what you're learning to do right now. AI, all the tech, whatever, that's the easy part. It's also the cheapest part, right? Especially why? Why is that the easiest part, especially now? Anyone?
Yes, because you know what's the task and you just like deploy whatever it is to do that task. The problem is if you don't know what you need, and then you're gonna spend so much money trying to figure it out.
Not exactly.
Because the cost of acquisition of customers is extremely high.
No. All you guys, what is this class?
Because of AI.
Exactly. Have you heard of something called vibe coding? Have you heard of Lovable? Have you heard of Replit? Have you heard of anything? You know, Cursor? These are tools But let me tell you, 5 years ago when I was building software, right? I used to work with development teams. I had UX designers, I had database designers, I had Q&A. I would work with big development teams, right, to roll out products that, literally took months to build. That today, one person with fairly reasonable good software development and design skills can do what my whole team would have taken 6 months to do. They can do it in 6 weeks.
Agree.
Right? That's the power of what AI gives you. But this is also why the technology, the software, is no longer the competitive factor. Because if you can build it in 6 weeks, she can build it in 6 weeks. She can do it in 6 weeks. AI has democratized knowledge, right? I mean, for example, I'm up here talking, usually a professor is, so maybe you assume I know more than you, and maybe I do in some aspects. But guess what? All of you here have the ability now to know as much as I do, and even more so. Why? Exactly. You have on your computer, on your phone, right? You can go up, you can go ask GPT, Claude, Gemini, anything. And guess what? It knows as much as I do and more, right? So knowledge is no longer a moth. It's no longer going to protect you, right? So this is what I mean when I say the technology is the easy part now. What's the hard part?
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you're talking that like knowledge and capability is not an unfair advantage anymore, what would you say that it's an unfair advantage nowadays in order to create a revolution? More knowledge.
No, to create a moth, right, around a business. It used to be that technology could give you that moth. Now I would have to say it's marketing, right? Your ability, if you own distribution, that becomes your moth, right? Because once you lock in clients, it's much more difficult for people to steal them, right? I mean, but to be honest, there isn't a whole lot of moths anymore. I mean, it's a lot more difficult to create. I don't know if you guys know what a moth is. When you build a business, a moth is some way of protecting that business from competitors, right? And
something that you have that they don't have.
yeah, something that some advantage that you have or you can attain. For example, it used to be an easy moth was first to market, right? If you could launch, I don't know if you remember, but there was a time, not too long ago, started to rush to launch, right? Why? They want to be first to market so they can start accumulating customers, and that was their moth. That just give them that head start. Imagine you're in a race, right? If you notice when they do, if you can get a head start of 6 months, yeah, I mean competitors can come, but I mean, let me give you an example how powerful that is. Take Uber, right? How many people have tried to duplicate what Uber does? They have all the technology, right? Yet Uber still owns 50% of the market. Lyft, which is the second biggest competitor, right, is like 10% of Uber, right? So just imagine that. But why did how did Uber get there? They were first to market. Everyone knows Uber as a brand, right? So it still has advantages, but again, AI makes those advantages a lot less because people can acquire the technology, etc., and roll up a company very, very quickly. How many of you have business ideas about, have you done either of those two things? Have you tried to do either of them?
The custom market.
No, not custom market fit. Have you tried to establish demand and can you execute in distribution? Have you tried to do those two things?
I have, but there has been successful ones and failed ones.
Okay, so you tried multiple business ideas, and so some have succeeded, some things, some have passed certain validation, and they failed in other validation, and
Some were like even if they launched, they did not were a good product market fit. Some of them.
why did you launch them then?
To test?
The test? Okay, so you created a proof of concept or MVP just to test the idea or something like that?
I tested, I launched it, I validated, and then when you deploy, sometimes like even if you have all the factors correctly, all the perfect docs and the perfect business plan and everything planned, and you have the test and you have the interviews, you have this, you have that, and sometimes the demand of the market does not acquire. Sometimes the timing was not correct. Sometimes the area was not
There's a lot of things that can go wrong, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things, but this is a good example. Everyone, because of classical training, we have this mentality that we need to build something, show it to people, and then try to sell it, right? This has been sort of like, beaten into us from, industrial age, right? You needed a product to demonstrate and, The truth of the matter is, you can validate demand without building anything. Because when the pain you're trying to solve is great enough, people will pay for the promise of a solution. They don't need the actual solution itself. And what's the proof of this? You probably heard of Kickstarter, right? Here's a site, very big, people go on it, create landing pages, they create videos, but the basic premise of it is basically, hey, give me some money, and 1 year later, I'm gonna give you a product or service in return, right? You don't know that they're actually going to be able to do it. But if the promise of what they're saying resonates with you, right? And it's gonna be different for different people, right? You're gonna pay for it, and people pay for it. I mean, look how many successful Kickstarter projects they are. So Kickstarter is proof that you do not need to build anything to validate demand. And I'm gonna give you another way, another proof that you don't need to do it. In Miami, you see all these apartment buildings that go up all the time, right? They're building left and right. Do you know that as a developer, a bank will not fund you unless you pre-sell, 30, 40, 40% of these units? So what do developers do? They build these models, they get very attractive girls to show people the models and stuff like that. I should know, I bought one like that. Right? And they sell it. Guess what? If they don't sell, if for whatever reason they can't sell enough of these apartments, they just refund you your money and says, hey, we had some problem, whatever, we can't build the building,
Or they
sorry.
do it.
Here's your money back, right? But the key thing is, the banks will not lend them the money to build the building unless they pre-sell X number of units within that building, right? So here is a classical, this is happening every day. Here is a developer pre-selling a building, and you gotta think about this. When I bought that building, I didn't put down $500. I didn't put down, $1,000. It wasn't a little bit of money. I had to put down $15,000. Right? So just imagine, I was putting down $15,000 on the hope that they were gonna build this apartment. You know, they showed me all these glitzy photos and stuff like that. And guess what? When they finished, it didn't look anything like those photos. And I couldn't even sue them. You know why? Because the contract was so big and complicated, right? When I read it, I was like, it says it right there. It may not match, the finished apartment may not match the photos, but I just didn't read it because it was so big and complicated, right? So I got my lawyer, said, look, man, this apartment, look, it doesn't have a floor, it doesn't have, you know, whatever, you know. And he goes, yeah, but you signed a contract. You know?
If you would argue, they will tell you, like, go find out elsewhere.
No,
They will not stop the contract for you.
no, yeah. Now, hey, guess what? I didn't have GPT or Claude back then to analyze that contract. If I had it, I never would have signed it, right? Anyway, the point is, you don't need to build anything to validate demand.
I mean, one example is Tesla, right? They pre-sell the Tesla, the car, and now they are pre-selling Optimus.
Oh, yeah.
But
But I mean, Tesla has a huge advantage. Tesla is a huge established company, right?
No, but even before they pre-sold, right?
Yeah. I mean, companies pre-sell things all the time, but I mean, I'm saying with Kickstarters, the people on Kickstarters are people like you, and you know me, whatever. They're not big established companies.
Yeah.
When you're you know, an established company, you have credibility, right? My point is, you can validate demand without building anything, because to build things, it takes time, takes money. What you want to do, you want to establish as quickly and as cheaply as possible that an IDA may not work. Because let me tell you, even when you validate demand, even if you validate demand and you validate distribution, it doesn't mean that you're going to have a successful business. Why?
Sir, I can tell you so many reasons why, but I wanna like discuss this on a little bit, one step more. What you're saying is to find a demand and to be able to distribute, and then you have 80% of the problem. I just wanna comment.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that simple, because now the world is so saturated with ideas, and you are competing on a very small percentage with a lot of competitors. But let's say you have a very big demand, very big problem, and you created a solution. First, you are competing with huge companies that can do the same thing that you're doing with lower cost. So you will go to business and you will fail while doing the exact same like things, people doing it for cheaper, and you can't make money on that.
When I say validate demand, validated demand means, you have to be very specific. It's about going to people and saying, do you want to buy my product because it's different than X, than the competitors?
You're assuming that you're gonna be creating a unique product that people will.
No, it doesn't have to be unique.
But why are they gonna buy it if it's available? Most people thought about it and put something in the market, and then you're gonna look at it and see, oh, if I change this, I might have some more attraction. And you try to go with your attractive product, and then you find out that, dude, it's hard to compete. I'm doing well, but I can't keep doing this until I reach.
It's a very good point. But let me ask you something.
Yeah.
How many burger businesses there are in Miami?
I opened a burger business and I failed. One of the
Okay,
stuff
you
that I
open a
did.
burger business and fail, but
Yeah.
there are many that succeed. Right?
I disagree. I see most of businesses, small businesses, they fail.
No, we already established that. We already
Yeah.
established that 90% of businesses will
Okay.
fail,
Okay.
right? But there's still, the 10%.
I think they
right?
have strategy. So, and strategy is the key. Let's say, for example, Uber. You said Uber succeeded. Uber had a strategy of not making any profits at all for the first 20 years. And this is how he built it. If he didn't have that strategy, people would go into that business, thinking how much money I can make from this. This guy didn't think of
I
that.
was gonna address your point next.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Good.
No, but it's good, it's
I
good.
mean, I'm trying to discuss it on a more complicated level because like creating a need and the distribution is so basic for us. I think almost everybody have did this twice at least in their lives and failed and they know better like how to address the competition, the market,
How
the
many
strategy.
people here, how many people, let's verify what he's saying. How many people here have validated demand and distribution for business idea? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many people is in this class?
33.
33. I don't think
I assume
that's a majority. But I haven't even gotten into how you went about doing that, because I can guarantee you, if you tell me how you validated demand and distribution, right? I'm pretty sure I can pick it apart,
I'll tell you.
right? No, we don't have the time frame.
No, I don't want to tell you exactly, but it's very simple. Less than 30 seconds. So, you think for a burger, okay?
Okay.
I make so good burger, and everybody, my friends, they come to my house.
Okay.
But that was so basic, that was a long time ago. They say, your burger is amazing, you should open a restaurant.
Okay.
I kept that idea until I could open a restaurant. I saw a burger place that's closing. I redesigned it, make like testing for people, they loved it, and I started learning that it doesn't matter. If you don't pay for marketing, you're not gonna get customers. And then you pay for marketing, and then you discover, oh, all of my money is going for marketing. So I'm working for free, I'm always making nothing. And then 6 months later, I took the hard pill and I thought, I can't do this anymore.
You see, he just admitted, he validated demand, but what did he validate? Distribution. You didn't validate distribution. You didn't figure out how you were gonna tell everyone in Miami you had the best burger in Miami.
No, I didn't calculate it. I figured it out. You have to do promotion, but promotion is hard. It
Wow,
consumes
that's
all of your
distribution.
money.
Distribution includes all aspects of marketing, right? When I say you need to validate distribution, it means you need a go-to-market strategy that is going to work. Not that you think it's gonna work, but you need to test it to understand it's gonna work and what's the cost involved. You need to understand what your customer acquisition cost is going to be, right? And how you're gonna execute that go-to-market strategy to get those customers.
How do you do it without creating the product first and getting the
That's the
people?
thing, why the other restaurant closed? On that
It's the
side?
same thing though with the other restaurant closed, yeah.
Yes, you had to think about it before
I
opening.
can keep going, I know you got about.
We have a time frame, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, go
Okay,
ahead.
so let's assume for a moment, you validated demand. You think you have a really good, distribution strategy, marketing, right? Is that enough? No, it's not, because now you have to execute on that strategy, right? And this is not as easy as it sounds, because you have to execute not for 1 week, you have to execute for months. You have to execute consistently,
Season, yeah.
right? So it's not enough to say, well, yeah, I have validated demand, I have validated distribution, people want the product, whatever. To build a business, you have to execute on the plan. But even then, guess what? Let's say you have a team, and your team is tops at execution. You guys are hitting all the KPIs, key performance metrics. That's how they measure how well you're doing, whatever. Let's just call them goals, right? You're hitting all your goals, etc., right? Guess what? It's still not enough, because there is a fourth factor that none of you have any control over. Neither do I.
What do you call it?
Luck.
Yeah.
Right? And if you thought that anyone, for example, Mark Zuckerberg, will tell you he was lucky. He was in the right place at the right time. He came from a rich enough family that he felt, hey, if I get kicked out of Harvard, guess what? It's no big deal. I can do all these things because why? My dad is a millionaire. And he admits this. So even with all of these things, luck always plays a factor. And
It's
it-
luck and time as well.
Well, timing is part of luck, right? Because, for example, Warren Buffett says, if he wasn't born in the year he was born, he would not be as rich as he was today. Right? So that's timing. But it wasn't timing that he created, right?
But sometimes, like, let's say, for example, you could create an amazing product, and you have luck and whatever, but if it didn't reach the correct time for market adoption, it's also
Well,
something
that's
that.
part of luck. I mean, in my view, timing, since you can't control it, all these factors, they all fall under that category
Okay,
of being lucky, right? So those are the 4 factors. I mean, there is, in order to grow a business, you also have to be able to scale it, right? But that comes after you've established, all of these other things, right? You have an ongoing business, right? So now you have to scale it, right? But that's a different problem. What I tell people, man, that's a problem I would love to have. You come to me, you tell me you have too many customers, you can't satisfy your demand.
That's not the problem.
I mean, tell me where I can invest. That's the kind of companies I want to invest in. Companies that are complaining that they cannot meet demand, right? That's when you get into the problem of, okay, how do I scale a business? And that's a whole different, talk and whatever. So yeah, I mean, let's talk about YC or incubators for a moment. What does an incubator do? An incubator basically, interesting enough, will tell you exactly what I'm telling you now, right? They will tell you, validate demand. They will tell you, hey, and how, well, they will give you ways of different to do it. They'll tell you, okay, do customer interviews, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing is, do you really need an incubator? And I will argue you don't anymore, right? Because all of the knowledge you used to get from incubators is now out on the internet. All of the knowledge in YC, YC has a library, a whole bunch of videos talk about it, right? Hey, do this, do that, whatever. You know what you have to do. You just have to go and do it. You're going to an incubator, yeah, I mean, it can be helpful in that it can get you motivated. You can feel there's a certain, they try to create this atmosphere of a competition, between the different teams, right? Say, okay, look, and you have these group meetings, everyone checks in and say, okay, look, this is what I did this week. So it creates this atmosphere of a competition, which can help, it can drive you. And you also can see, everyone is pretty open in incubator. They tell you what they did, what didn't work, etc. So it's like being in a camp with like-minded people, which is helpful. But I would argue you don't need it because it takes, that's even for a short program, it can take like 6 weeks, whatever. Man, with AI, you can do all of that work 2 weeks. My advice, get out there, validate, keep validating until you find something that actually validates. Because the truth of the matter is, you're more likely to get into YC if you go to them and says, hey, I have a business idea that I've validated. I've done the market research, right? I've proven demand. I've proven I can execute the distribution. We have people, we have a waiting list of people waiting for it. When you can show all of these things, it's proven to them or to any incubator, that you have a much better chance of succeeding. think of me, if I have 50 applications for a program, right? Which applicant am I gonna accept above the others? The ones that are more likely to succeed. Because at the end, you get into pitching contest, right? Where you pitch for investor funding, right? Well, what does an investor want? The investor wants to invest in an idea that, has a good chance of being successful. The whole point of the incubator program is to filter ideas, right? That is not gonna work. It's to filter out ideas that are not gonna work, so that the ones that reach their investors has a potential, a good chance of working, right? And for an investor, it's a pretty good deal. They don't have to go and analyze all of these business. They can just wait for the finalists, right? And say, okay, yeah, I think this is, they passed through the incubator, the incubator did all the vetting and everything like that, and I just need to think, well, okay, does this align with what I need to do, right? So I'm not saying don't apply to an incubator, right? I'm saying you don't need to. Whatever it's gonna give you, the most important thing it can give you are connections. But guess what? If you have a validated business idea and you go to any investor and you say, look, this is what I have, believe me, you're gonna get attention. And nothing gets attention like a business that is actually making money, showing traction, right? If you're showing, hey, look, I'm getting, 100 sign up every week, right? That's traction. Believe me, that is gonna get investors more interested than anything else. You can show traction, or you can show, look, you have paying customers. And when it comes to validation, there is nothing more relevant than if you can get people to prepay for something, right? You can talk to people and you can say, hey, what do you think about this? People will say, I think it's the greatest thing, whatever. But then you say, okay, great. Would you pay $50 for it? Oh, well, I don't know, maybe. Let me think about it, right? There's a saying here in this country, money talks and bullshit walks, right? And it's true. You want to validate an idea, get people to prepay for it. There's no greater validation than that.
There's a question from the
I got a
friends
question.
Axel.
Yes, hello. And thank you for offering. I'm pretty curious about how do you validate, like, who do you validate with? Like, which do you think is your target audience, or I'm trying to understand who we want to validate the idea first, and to have like that first impression.
No, okay. Validate. What question? Okay. Validate demand is very simple. You're trying to identify a market segment that wants to buy whatever it is you're selling, right? So, how you go about doing that is, I wouldn't say it's an easy process, but it's a process. And there's tons and tons of books out there on how you go about validating business. One of them is written by ex-Google incubator. It's called The Right It, right? That's the name of the book, The Right It. And it's written by the guy that headed up the Google incubator. And just to give you a very short summary of what that book advocates, is basically what I'm saying. Don't build anything. Find the cheapest way to validate a business idea, and the best validation is getting people to pay for something, right? So, to answer your question, whatever it is you're thinking of building, right? You can create a landing page describing what it does, what the benefits of it is, right? And of course, if you're building something, let's say, or lawyers, then who's your target market? Your target market is lawyers, right? So you take it to some lawyers and you show it to them and see, what do they say? Do they say, hey, here's my money, I'm going to pay for it right now? Or do they say, yeah, okay, it looks kind of nice, you know, and they try to be nice? Because people generally try to be nice to you. You know, when you ask them about your business idea, no one is going to tell you it sucks. You don't have to believe me. Why don't you have to believe anything I tell you today?
Because of that.
What?
Because of AI.
Exactly. Exactly. You have someone that is smarter than me, right? I mean, if we have time, we can actually go in to GPT and start asking him what he thinks about what I just said, but we're not going to waste that time. Your homework assignment after this class will be to do exactly that. Go to your favorite AI chat program and says, you know, I had this crazy guy telling me today about what I need to do first is validate demand and validate the distribution. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard. What do you think?
We got
I don't know. Maybe it will.
we got the recording, so.
Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll have some other ideas, right?
Yeah, one question is, so in the class we studied, for example, user research.
Okay.
So you have an idea for a product that through user research, let's create like a survey for people in that area, and then they maybe find some papers, publications that maybe from building a product in the area of health. There are studies, many studies, right? And so would validation be so out of that research, and I find, look, I think people will want my product. Is that enough validation? No.
I'll give you an example. I'm working with a startup out of Canada. It's Femtech, right? And this is woman is a researcher, doctor. She's trying to address a problem. I don't know. You have to be a bit older woman, but there's, you know, before, I didn't even know about this, but before menopause, there's something called perimenopause, right? And supposedly this affects women, and they don't even know that it affects them. It's a huge problem, right? So, you know, you have what, 50% of the world, you know, women that, you know, going to be affected by this. It's a huge problem. You would think that, you know, the demand for a product, right, that addresses this is obvious.
But they don't have the knowledge about it, so that's gonna be the biggest gap.
Well, it's not that when you get it, you know, they're saying the devil is.
an issue because then you need to educate your customer and then.
Well, no, some of them do know about it, but the tricky part is that it doesn't affect everyone equally. For some women, it can be a really big problem. For some other women, they don't even know anything about it, right? So you have a distribution problem. How do you find the women that are really affected by this, right? Because that's your target market. It's not all women. It's only the women that this is really a pain for, right? So she's beginning to understand that it's not so easy doing this, right? Yeah, she has a great product, but she has a distribution problem, right? So anyway, anyone has a business idea that they would like us to validate?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's this.
Your burger business again?
I-
Burger
Can I ask you a
burger
question?
version 2.
Can I ask a
No,
question before you go into that? You talked about a distribution issue, and I agree with what you're saying, like an example. But hasn't many of the biggest products that we've seen throughout our lives, I'm talking like the iPhone, like, and the AI itself, like, have they had a distribution problem? All of them? Why? Because they all needed to educate the customer. And educating the customer creates a problem of marketing costs.
If you have Apple's money, right? You're more than welcome to go about educating all the customers you want.
Okay, but
Right.
also, I get what you're saying, but also the biggest products and launches, even from underdogs, have been, all of them, like, they're so innovative that they're ahead of time, that they even have like that lock and that out of time constraint, that it could affect, but it could potentially create a new blue ocean, like.
Hey, if you have the time and the resources, right, to tackle that kind of market, hey, go for it, you know?
Yeah.
Not a problem. Unfortunately, most of us, including me, we don't have that luxury. If you come to me and you say, you want, forget about my money. I will not even give you my time if you cannot validate these two things, demand and distribution. I'm not even gonna waste my time with you.
And I just wanna say something before we go too far, like, even with Shark Tank, which is one of those programs out there, you see all these investors and they are looking to invest in startups. It's about demand, and if you have like pre-order, they ask all these questions, they're like, oh, what's the demand?
Yeah.
Like, do people want this product? Are people, and if you say yes, you see them on their seat like, oh, okay, so tell me more about it, how many? That's what you're saying, like, it makes so much sense. That's what I just want to say.
No, exactly. You know, I mean, you can, you know, there's a lot of
It's been
different
around the
ways
area
of
of
starting a business, and there's, you know, a lot of, businesses.
Yeah, let's do the exercise, 'cause
Oh, okay,
we
go
might
ahead.
run out of time, so, but can you come here, cause then, it's a conversation and there's the camera already.
Let me write it a little.
I hope it's not too complicated.
No, it's very easy, that's why I just want to put some numbers so that numbers can talk.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a unique idea, it's a very, I'll talk about it, Tarek. So, you know, like debt, Americans are in, they call it non-secure debt, which is credit card debt, car loans.
Debt.
Yeah,
Debt.
the D is silent for some reason. So debt, 53% of Americans, or people living in America, they have unsecured debt carry month to month. This is what they call it. You have your credit card, you pay the minimum, next month you same, in 1 year you'll see how much you accumulate. So there's something called debt resolution company, and it's really different from debt consolidation company. Debt resolution means the company have to talk with the debtors, whatever you call it, and negotiate that, hey, this guy cannot pay you whatever you have, and they can reach resolution up to 50%.
Faster.
Okay, 50%. This is how much money you can make out of debt.
Okay.
And in order to get debt resolution, you have two stages: front end and back end. Front end, they make the call, they secure the customer.
Let me stop you. We don't care
Okay.
how you're gonna execute this.
Okay.
We only wanna know one thing.
Okay.
What's your value proposition? What it is that you're gonna, assume for a moment, I have 5,000 in credit card debt. I can't pay.
Okay.
What are you gonna do for me?
I'm gonna make you pay payments. Instead of paying 5,000, I'm gonna make you pay 3,500.
Okay, 3,500.
I'm gonna make the difference.
Okay, what I have to do?
You have to sign up with me a contract and start paying, instead of paying 5,000 one time and you're gonna pay 3,500 only, and on very simple, like 60-month, whatever, payment plan.
Okay, and what is it gonna cost me?
It's gonna cost you nothing. You're gonna actually have discount 15 per, like 15 or 1,500.
Oh man, where do I sign up? Where do I
Yes.
sign up?
That's exactly what it is. It's called debt resolution.
Okay.
So in order to be a debt resolution, you have to have the front and back end. Okay, the back end, if you get the
Forget
back
about that. We don't care about what you
Okay.
need. Do I care about what you need to do it? You're telling me you're just
This
gonna
is the
reduce my
customer.
debt.
Yes.
That's all I care about.
Okay.
I don't care about whether you have a front, back, middle.
Okay.
you know,
So this company
whatever it
is already exists.
Okay.
Okay. And it's already making money. It started on October last year. It made like 200,000 of debt. What do you call it? Not debt resolution. Debt drawing. You got $200,000 of debt. As a front end, which is the first stage, you make only 7.5% upfront from this. And up to now, it made 1.7.
Interest rate from the repayment.
Okay, so you're saying this is an existing company that's
Yes.
making money?
Yes, and it's like,
So it's validated, it has customers and everything, what are you doing up here then? Go back and sit down.
I'll tell you where is the problem. The problem is this company needs support. Why? Because it's shrinking and it's not growing because of the.
You have a distribution problem.
I have a different distribution need, not a problem. I know what I need to do, but I need fund to be able to do it.
Oh, scalability.
Yeah, I need to be survival and scalability. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is not, you've already validated, for example, I already know that this is an established industry,
Yeah.
right? So there's a lot of industry, for example, if you come to me, you tell me, I wanna open a burger restaurant, right? You don't have to validate people eat burgers, we know people eat burgers. What you have to validate is, are they gonna be interested in eating your burger? Whatever kind of burger you're gonna make, and are they gonna be interested in coming to whatever your location is to eat that burger? And are they gonna be willing to pay the price you're gonna sell that burger for?
Yeah.
Right? That's what you need to validate. You don't need to validate that people eat the burger. We don't need to validate that people wanna reduce their debt, right? We know people wanna reduce their debt, right? This is not a validation problem. What he has is a scalability problem, right? He cannot get the funds, right, to scale his business, right? Now, the question becomes, if he cannot get funds to scale a business, that means that when investors are looking at this business, they're seeing something they don't like. So what it is that they're seeing in that business?
Oh, no investors yet. This is self-built business.
No, I know, but
It will have people coming.
oh, so you haven't even tried to get it?
No, no. That's why.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why I'm waiting for you. No, for real. I've been talking with professors since last week. So you are the one who's going to guide us how to get the right investor at the right place.
If you ask him now, he's gonna kill
No,
you
no, no.
because you told him all the
I
problems that
asked
you
for
have.
business to be validated.
Okay.
This is a different thing.
Okay.
This, you're asking, okay, how do I scale my business? I already built a little business, it's ongoing,
Yes.
right? You know?
But you
Now-
said that's the best business, the business that already is making money, already have customers. So that's the best
No,
business you
but,
bring
yeah, but the
investors.
question I have for people is, hey, let's validate
Okay.
a new idea, not, because this is the more advanced problem,
Yeah.
right? You know, how do you approach investors to invest in a business? It's a different discussion.
Okay.
It addresses a different
Yeah,
problem.
that's later
Yeah.
after 2 beers.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll discuss that.
Okay, so how much time do you have?
Until 8:30, so 11 minutes.
Okay, let's just do, Q&A. And any questions you have about anything, AI, business, whatever, I'm happy to try and answer them. Even though you probably can get a better answer from the AI.
What is the minimum angel investment in the US?
No, it varies. For example, different incubators will have different minimum,
No, about angel, not incubators, like.
Oh, but, no, the angel is.
55, 50.
No, it's completely variable, right? Not only that, it's variable based on the business idea. For example, for some idea that I don't feel very strongly about, I may say, well, another thing that the investors do, they invest in tranches, right? They don't give you all the money up front. They'll say, fine, for example, here, I'm gonna give you 5,000. Let's see what happens, what you do with that. If I like the results, okay, fine, now I'm gonna give you 10,000, right? If I like the results, okay, now here's 50,000, right? So they don't generally give you all the money up front. I mean, this is why you see this whole concept of funded rounds, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever, so they start small, and they can validate that you're actually using the money, you're not gonna run away and go to the Bahamas and, party with it, right? Any other questions?
So you talked about 100 users a week, right? So what other KPIs are they looking at?
Well, it depends on the business, right? Every business idea, how you go about validating it, right, is gonna be different. The bigger your market, right, the more, users you're gonna need to sign up to validate that idea. For example, if you're building something for, let's say like this people in mergers and acquisition space, there's just not that many mergers and acquisition companies in the US, right? If you can get to any of those companies, right? That's a lot already, you understand? So it really depends on your target market that you're going after. And you wanna have some reasonable percentage of that market to indicate. Also, you wanna have a distribution across that market. For example, if you're like this perimenopause app, whatever, yeah, I mean, to have, they have like 50 users out of Ontario, Canada, right? Well, that doesn't cover, what about Miami? What about New York? Or what about California, you understand? So you not only have to prove, because when you're gonna sell your product, you have to think, well, who you're gonna be selling it to? It's gonna be sold across, for example, if you're gonna try to sell across North America, you wanna test your distribution across North America. You don't just wanna test in Miami. Okay, who else? No more questions?
Maybe people need a view.
After you validate your business,
Yeah.
and what is the process to get an appointment with you? And
Yeah, right. Because you want like
straight to the point.
you do like coaching and for startup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm easy, I'm happy, I love to help people. I'm happy
what
to-
needs to be done to
Yeah.
have
No,
something?
you just contact me, say, look, this is what I'm thinking of doing, I get these all the time, people contact me. I had a guy, even out of Nigeria, contacted me, recently, right? And no, I mean, I'm happy to, but I'm able to very, very quickly evaluate, ideas and say, look, one of the big problems I see with people is that they think too big. They think of a business and the business idea is just very big. One of the things I would strongly encourage you to do is to niche down. Try to get as small as possible. So that way the execution, validation, everything becomes simpler, right? And believe me, if you can even get something going on that small scale, it will give you a good base to expand upon. The experience of building even something very small is invaluable. Because I see it all the time. People come to me, they go, yeah, they did all this research and stuff like that, and then we get into the process, and then they say, okay, yeah, I didn't, it doesn't really hit you until you try to do something. There's, I don't know how to describe it. There is something you learn from doing that you cannot get any other way. And it's better to fail small and fail quickly than, I cannot tell you how many people I've spoken to that have spent like years and a lot of money and a lot of time chasing something that I look at, and within 5 minutes, I know it's not gonna work. But they spent like literally years of their lives, because what happens? I don't know, I remember the psychology behind it. When you commit, the more time and energy you invest in something, the harder it is to let go, right? Because you feel, man, I spent, so much time, so much money, so much energy in this. They keep looking for ways to, they don't want to face the reality that it's not going to work. So it's better to fail fast, fail early. Because what that is going to do is going to allow you to go after something else that may work, right? And another thing I can tell you, this also applies to relationships. Interestingly enough, fail fast, fail.
Okay, yeah. So,
anything else?
Can we ask you quickly what your background is? How did you get to where you are?
Well, I started out in actually no, I started out in sales, right? And if you can learn anything, learn about sales, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what it is you build, you're gonna have to sell it. Even if you want money, you're gonna have to sell yourself, right? So if you learn nothing, learn about sales. And that's, I would say, it's one of the most valuable things I learned. I started out in sales, And then I switched to computers and learned about, a lot of, different things. But I've always had a passion, let's put it that way, for, startups and building companies and also in technology. So this just allows me to kind of like put it together. But again, what I do is there's nothing special about what I do. Everything that I'm telling you today is available on the internet. You can go and ask the AI. Amazingly enough, a guy, seasoned, this guy has started other companies, right? Sent me a pitch deck. I'm looking at it. What do I do? The first thing I do, I ask the AI, hey, what do you think about this, right? The AI tells me this, I sent him back a reply. He goes, I could have done that. I could have asked ChatGPT, to give me this answer. I
Why
said, did
didn't
you? He didn't. He's telling me that he could have done it, but guess what? He didn't do it, right? Because if he had done it, he wouldn't be upset because he would know exactly what I'm telling him, right? You have this powerful resource, but it's being underutilized. Use it more. Use it for everything you're thinking of doing. Just go in there, ask it. Tell it what you're thinking of doing. Submit your ideas, right? And, look at what it's saying. You don't need me anymore, really. Everything I know.
But
is
there's
in.
something with AI, it's so generic, it doesn't like, it is useful many times, but we are at a level like you need someone from the market, you need someone with the real experience.
It's generic when you don't give it
Yeah.
all of the information you
You need a
need. And
prompt.
Claude has gotten a lot better now. For example, if you use Claude instead of GPT, Claude will start asking you questions. It will say, hey, I need you to answer these 5 questions.
Right.
And it will even give you a list of potential answers. Yeah. And it will keep asking until it gets enough information to make.
Yeah, for an industry, for research, you are 100% right. For something real, like networking is the key. People get investment by knowing people.
No, that's a different. We're talking about validating business ideas,
Yeah.
not about getting money for your
For the business
debt
idea.
resolution
Okay.
business.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a good point to think. And so we're headed there.
Okay.
And if you wanna